Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I want to talk to you about card prices and maybe whether or not they've floored. I want to show you data that I'm showing and seeing, and I want to just ask the question, have we seen the bottom? And I'm going to talk about some reasons why maybe that's the case and maybe why card prices have fallen recently can be explained and then put aside. Or maybe there is more room for downside. Let's talk about it today. Before we get into it though, I need to say that SplinterCoach is sponsoring the video, and they've been a sponsor of the channel here recently. Thank you very much to SplinterCoach for making video content like this possible. If you guys don't know what this is, it's a website that will track your personalized battle history within Splinterlands, and that allows two things. One, entertainment, because you can enjoy looking at the data and you can see how you're doing. Conquer Yasik is like an underdog story for me, where Conquer Yasik was probably my worst summoner. I think I went like 0-12 or something like that for the first 12 matches since when I started tracking the data. And then, as you can see on the screen, 43 and 48, I've really turned things around, and that sort of tracking and stuff can be really fun. Like it's cool to see how that was going, and to see how I was surprised by how terrible it was, and now I can see new success, and still below 500, but that's a big turnaround. Fire is one of my weaker splinters, so that's entertaining, and I like looking at the data. But also, it's technically, I think, helping me because it gave me a clear idea of what was going wrong. And so I really think you should check out SplinterCoach, splintercoach.com. It's got great data, and I think it's entertaining and helpful. So check it out, and you can have a free 7-day trial when you do. Okay, let's get into it. So maybe before even that, if you're new to the channel, my name is Dwayne Cunningham. I go by Infidel1258, and you can call me 12. Leave comments below. Oh, and by the way, we'll be giving away a plot of land maybe 2 weeks from now. It's pretty well done. The number of people that I said originally we would do this for is full. The question is now, when can I schedule a live? And I think 2 weeks makes the most sense because this week's crazy. And then I'd love for as many of you as possible to make it a public event to be there, because many of you who have supported the channel with viewership, with comments, with likes, subscriptions, might even have an opportunity to win that free plot of land. And so come hang out. We'll set it for 2 weeks, kind of middle of June. And yeah, more information on that, I guess, in the coming days. Okay, so here's the thing. Recently, I decided that I was going to start tracking my card valuations with Twitter, because I frankly want to track this stuff, and I think maybe others want to see the trends also. Maybe you do already look at this data for your own sake, like looking at your account, seeing how much your cards were worth yesterday and today and tomorrow. And if you do, great. I think this sort of journaling will be really helpful in the long term, because you're going to start to see trends. And I think hopefully it's going to help us visualize the reality of the next bull market, because one, I do think another bull market is going to come to Splinterlands. And if you think so too, you should try and position yourself so that you can recognize that moment when you're in it. Because so often the case is when we're in a bull market, we don't recognize it. And I've been victim to this. This has been me in my story in the past. Like, I've watched bull markets rush by, and I thought, you know, Bitcoin, the first time it reached 19,000, I thought, oh, it's going way higher. And then it crashes in the bear market, and all my unrealized gains are lost. They just evaporate like thin air. And so recognizing that you're in a bull market when you're in a bull market, that's probably 9/10 of the problem, of the difficulty within this space. It's so really hard to see that in the middle of it, and to talk yourself off the ledge of, oh, we're going to the moon, we're going to Mars, we're going, like, life-changing opportunity and wealth, and so much optimism starts coming at you from every angle. So what if you had data to help support an understanding of where we were at, and maybe tracking your own price journal for your collection of cards might be one path. So what I'm doing is I'm doing that, and I started on May 5th. These are my last 2 entries. And I'm going to start tracking it in the form of like an ongoing thread, but I didn't originally. So you'll see 2 here on the screen, May 29th and May 18th before that. And I retracked it again today, so 5 days later, June 4th, and also May 5th. So 4 times in 1 month is what I've looked at. And I will acknowledge before we even get into the data that 1 month is not a long enough sample size with which to draw, let's say, deeply reliable conclusions. But let's not pretend it gives us nothing. It absolutely shares something with us. So let's take it with a grain of salt. It's just a month of data, but let's look at it. The question that I want to pose today is, have they floored? Was that it? Because there's some fundamental considerations that I think might have brought cards down. But before we go any further, let's look at that data. So here on the screen, you're going to see an Excel cutout or copy paste from the data tracking. And so what we've got here is May 5th was the first data entry, May 18, 29, and June 4th, which is today's date. And you can see the different series of cards or releases: alpha, beta, promo, reward, untamed, dice, chaos, and rift watchers, and the different US dollar valuations for each of them. And at the bottom, a running total for each of them. And then this figure here at the bottom is indicating the percentage decrease or increase that we've seen between this and the prior. So what do we got here? I mean, first and foremost, on May 5th, a month ago, like 30 days, we had, my card valuation was $52,250, 53,000 US dollars. That was just my cards. That's not my Chaos Legion packs. That's not my, plots of land or my SPS or my, right? I've got tons of value in this game and in this space. And this is a significant chunk of that. But imagine if we're going to look at losses here of, I think 20, 25%, imagine what that did for the rest of my portfolio. Maybe we can talk about that too, but let's focus on the cards for now. So 53.2 was May 5th's total, and we fell all the way down to 43,000. So we lost 10,000 US dollars in 30 days. And if you look at, it's 11.7% loss in the first 2 weeks, 13 days. And then the following 11 days, another 10.6% loss. But here's the thing, an uptick of almost 3% in the last 5 days. Now, is 5 days not long enough? Maybe in the next week, we're going to see a tumble downward. I don't know. But I want to look a little closer at some of this data and show you where some of the big gains or losses have been, because that might be interesting from an analysis of like what cards could be interesting for you to go shopping for. And that's part of the data analysis that is available to you if you start tracking this stuff, because you might recognize trends. Like for instance, look at this, alphas went from 3,200 to 2,500. That's like that's nearly, I'm going to say, I could do the math quickly, like with my calculator, but just even roughly, we're talking in the neighborhood of 25%. Yeah, in the neighborhood 25%. That's a big drop off. Betas less, closer to 19, 18%. Promos very similar to the alphas, 25%. Rewards down, oof, that's a heavy hit. Down $4,000 from 14,000 to 10. I can't do that quite quickly, but that's more than 30%, isn't it? It is. It's probably 33, 32%. Untamed, less. So untamed betas and promos. No, untamed and betas so far are like the ones that have fallen the least, according to my data. Rewards have fallen probably the most so far, with maybe alphas being the second biggest sufferer. Dice here though, dice from 1,500 to 12. Yeah, that's bad, but it's not as bad as some of the others. Chaos, 15,000 down to 12,700. 20-25%. The worst of the worst is those reward cards. Like by about, I'm going to say 8-9% worse in terms of its percentage of fall. So that's really, really potentially interesting, because it might mean that there's some opportunities out there for the rewards. But I think you're going to see that there's opportunities with each of them right now. If you were waiting on a card for that to fill, now maybe it's the time to re-look at the market and see what those opportunities are for you. If there's key cards that you've always wanted, now could be an interesting time. Why would one conclude? I think there's two draws from this. There's two paths. One, this is indicative of a precipitous fall and maybe the floor. And I say that because there's an uptick here. And I say that because of certain fundamental concerns or considerations that might point to why we might have recently fallen, but then now we're gonna firm up. Let's get into some of those fundamental considerations, and you test me, like challenge what I'm saying. I'm about to say to you. Give me feedback in the comments below about what I'm about to share with you, because I want to hear, I want to think through, I want to challenge my own, thesis here, my own hypothesis, really. Why might I think the first 3 weeks were indicative of a fall, but that is now complete? Well, for one thing, Zyriel, though it is not a particularly successful promo card, this card and this sale opportunity was a attraction that was available for a limited window of time. That means that there was an opportunity in this game, and about 45 or 4,600 copies of this thing were sold, times 80,000 DEC. Well, not exactly, because it was 80,000 DEC unless you used vouchers, and then so most people would have used vouchers, and so it's not 80,000 DC. But I'm saying this was a $40 to $50 per BCX card that many of you wanted. Some of you bought many copies of it. Maybe often the purchasers were looking for things like gold foils, because there was an opportunity for your one copy to turn into a gold foil, and so there might have been people chasing after that a little bit. Also, there's people who really just want to have every card, and whatever the case may be, whatever the justification for purchasing this card, and admittedly, not enough people did. So I would consider this not a failure, but underwhelming. Nevertheless, this was a cash distraction from the economy of our game that was taking that you could I think reasonably and conceivably conclude that assets were being sold, liquidated, set aside, soaked into this, and therefore maybe other cards were being sold in order to access DEC, in order to access vouchers, so that this card could be bought up. And then additionally, from the same vein, we have the event, the 5-year, the Great Burning, and the DEC that's being committed to this, which is gotten huge. Like, I'm down to 114. I was at 27 when I first burnt. I haven't burnt anymore, and I've fallen and fallen and fallen because some of you guys, maybe, I don't know how many on this list above me will be, followers of the channel. But as I look at the names, certainly some of you guys probably, there's Dahota. I know Dahota. I saw Peak Monsters up there. I hope they're still checking out the content every now and then. Reseller, I'm a big fan of his. Anyways, hey, there's Jester. Nice. Who else? Blaze, there he is. Wow, going hard, Blaze. Good for you, buddy. There's Vet V, aka Brandon. Darkstar, close friend. He was on the channel recently. So I know some of these people, and you guys know me, hopefully. And my point is, this again has been a sink that has drawn the attention of the limited resources that are available to our community. And so my question is, and I'm just posing this as a suggestion, were people liquidating assets? We saw Chaos Legion packs get down to, I think, $129. And right now they are around the, let's confirm it. They're $141. That again might be a slight indication, an affirmation that maybe I'm on the right track here. Maybe there was a liquidation of assets in order to access leaderboard rewards. And even we talked about how there's like a raffle ticket component here, right? It's like the 10,000 points equates to a raffle ticket. You also get the guild power. So this I think this was enticing. This was for as much as critical as I am about the Zyriel sale. And I'm not saying the Zyriel was a failure. I'm saying I'm critical of it. I don't think it was optimized. But I think this was a wild success. The leaderboard, not just the leaderboard, the burn itself, and how some people can earn something cool out of it, even by participating for just a few DEC. You get that raffle ticket experience, you get the guild points. So, but that's just two examples of ways you were incentivized to spend your DEC, to spend your cryptocurrency, maybe even your fiat currency in order to access Splinterlands. And you can't buy everything. You never can. So, is this the justification for why Chaos Legion packs went from, I think, $1.70 to $1.29? Is this the justification for why we saw card prices go down 20%, 21% in the last month? And did your account do something similar? I mean, I think my deck is large enough that I think I own everything. And so I feel as though this is going to be relatively replicable across a broad horizon. It's not as if I have a very niche deck with a few of these cards and a few of those cards, and therefore maybe I'm more exposed to dips in the market, or I also don't think I'm very insulated. I don't think I'm uniquely insulated. I think we're probably all going to see similar data like this. And so is it possible these card prices went down 20-25% over the last month because of this, the sinks, the spending opportunities that existed? And if so, can we reasonably conclude that maybe that was it? And that's why we see a modest, but noticeable price appreciation in the last week, last 5 days. 2.6%, big whoop. Okay, sure, it's not going to change anybody's life. 2.6% up is still better than 10% down. And so maybe, you could say dead cat bounce. You could say, it's not sustainable. The data period is too short. Okay. Maybe. But I think I gave an interesting and maybe compelling justification for why the card prices would have acted in a downward way over the last 3 weeks. Over the first 3 weeks of the last 4-week period. And then suddenly, if not radically gone up, at least, held their ground. Do you think that's possible? Do you think this was the floor? Is this indicative? Because here's one more thing. It's not just that the selling pressures have gone away in a sense, because you might say, well, sure, Zyriel's sale is done, but the Great Burn is still ongoing. So the selling pressure shouldn't have gone away. If Dwayne's argument's right about how, look, the Zyriel and the Great Burning were draining away all the DEC and causing people to sell because the event is still ongoing. Okay, but remember that between, I think, the first 48 hours, I think 400 million were burned. Give or take, it might even have been 410-ish were burned in the last 2-3 days, like however long, like in the second and third, or however long many days has been going on now, the next 10 or 20 or 30 million have gone. So what my point would be there is those who mean to go heavy in this have done so already. Yes, there will be more burning of DEC into this today, tomorrow, all the way to the very end. I really think that, because people are going to be buying for one spot higher or whatever. If you're not in top 60 and you want that epic, you're going to go top 60. If you're not in top 200 and you want to, you're gonna. And then to stay in top 200, you got to fight for a few more to try and get. So I think there'll still be a draw here to burn more DC between now and the end of this great burning. But the primary amount of the impact has been felt. I really, really do not believe that there's suddenly going to be another 300, 400 million burnt. That doesn't make much sense to me. If that was where you wanted to go with this, you would have already done it. Plus, the cost of the return for your investment is getting worse and worse and worse. Plus, the people have, if you're fighting for that tract, you have to think about the US dollar value of the tract. And so, you can't burn much more than that. Maybe you could do up to, like, let's say 80 and still be viable with the context of the tract, plus the guild points, plus the, the raffle ticket that you'd be receiving. But it's no longer the benefit that it might have been otherwise. So I'm feeling like this is mostly spent. Zyriel is done, and land is coming out in, like, I think 2 weeks. We missed a town hall last week, but we should have a town hall this week, and we should hear a lot more about land. I would think that middle of June was when we were supposed to see this thing go live. At least the 1.5 experience, which means card staking and DEC sync. And we've been talking about this for a long time, but I'm saying, is it reasonable on top of what we just said with respect to the DEC syncs of Zyriel and the DEC burn being no longer sort of impactful? if not done, at least no longer significantly impactful, not causing more ripples and waves. Most of the chaos out of those things being done. And then this land 1.5 coming out and that creating a bunch of card sink. Is it possible and is it reasonable that we've seen the bottom for cards? I kind of think it has. I really do. I kind of think it has. I'm going to keep tracking the data and I'll keep sharing with you what I find. But I want to see in the comments below what you guys think. I think these are reasonable foundations, not to go crazy and just to suddenly buy an arsenal of cards, but to maybe start to have some confidence that was a unique moment. And it was a bit of, I don't think it was even panicking. I think it was literally people selling to access funds, to access those opportunities that they felt they needed to, and that were really time sensitive. The Zyriel sale, whether you say love it or not, was time sensitive. The Great Burning, whether you participated or not, many people did. And early sort of contribution was deeply important and therefore time sensitive. Now we're seeing that all slow. It seems like the prices ticked up in the cards. And now we have this, not only do we have a lack of sort of selling pressure created out of those doors closing, we have a new maybe justification for tighter hands on the card assets that we hold, maybe new acquisition of cards because you need to populate your land. Plus, DEC did tick up, and now I'll admit, not a huge amount. I think we're at 800. We were at maybe 799, 798 Splintoshis before the Great Burning, and we popped over 8, and we've held around 810, and here we are today at 828 Splintoshis. I think that's a good thing for the broader, like for the expectations around card assets. I do. I think it is. And SPS is holding strong at 2 cents, man. I don't know how, but it is. And but one word of caution. I mean, you have to say to yourself, I want more data. I mean, I'm saying to myself, I want more data before I make any firm opinions. I'm just trying to think it through. I think everything I said makes sense. It's what I'm expecting. But then, I could, Bitcoin, I don't know. I'm not sure what's happening with Bitcoin. And I think if this thing just goes haywire, I get concerned again, at least short term, not long term. But if you were looking at this as okay, here we go, let's get some cards, recognize that the broader market conditions are impacting this conversation. And so think through what that would mean for yourself before you take any actions. But guys, I'm going to leave it there. I want to see in the comments below where you think up, down, left, right on the card market for Splinterlands. And you think it's reasonable to conclude that the market conditions with Zyriel and the burn were really what was causing people to liquidate in order to access those moments? I don't know. Let me know. Thanks, guys. Have an amazing day. And check out splintercoach.com for a free 7-day trial. Bye for now, guys. God bless.